Hey gang, and welcome back. These videos are brought to you by Card Conduit, the best place to sell your unused collection fast and easily. 401 Games, Canada's top shop for all your hobby and TCG needs. Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest decks. Moxfield, the easiest way to store and share your deck lists. And Foil Armor, flatten your foils fast. I win the die roll and start us off, playing a tapped Remote Isle. Benoit draws and plays a Glacial Floodplain. Amara's got a Spire Garden and ships it to Morgan. Morgan has a Spire Bluff Canal, which he then taps to cast a Skull Clamp and ships it after it resolves. My turn has me playing an island and casting a Silver Mirror and passing to Benoit. Benoit draws, plays an Arid Mesa, sacrifices it and loses 1 to find a hollowed fountain and shock himself, losing a total of 3. He then casts a Sunbeam Spellbomb and passes to Amara. Amara's turn has her playing a Plains and casting a Leafkin Druid. Morgan just has a Mountain and then casts Talisman of Creativity. I've got an Island, which means the Mindskinner comes out on my turn. Benoit draws, playing a Talisman of Progress and passing. Amara plays a Mountain, and then brings out a Goblin or Narcomancer to help reduce the cost of her dinosaurs. Morgan plays a Training Center, and then casts a Rose Room Treasurer, which is a cool card I'd like to see more of, and passes after that. I've got an Island, and then bring out a Soul Ring. I then cast the Blackblade Reforged, and have enough to equip it onto the Mindskinner. I then go to combat, and swing the Mindskinner at whoever basically since it's unblockable for 14. The damage is prevented, and each opponent mills 14, and I pass turn after that. Benoit draws and transmutes Teleria West for Urza's Saga, and then plays it for his land for turn, and passes after that. Amara's turn has a tapped Mosswarp Bridge coming in, and she casts Pantlaza. She then discovers a Colossal Dactyl, which she puts to field and passes after that. Morgan takes 2 as an untapped Steam Vents comes in, and he casts his own Soul Ring, and then brings up Brudiclad. This makes him a treasure token from the Rose Room Treasurer, and he then goes to combat. He then makes a Mirror token from Brudiclad's trigger, which makes him a treasure token from the Rose Room Treasurer, and he then resolves the rest of Brudiclad's ability, and has the Mirror turn into a treasure token as well. Morgan then swings the Treasurer at me, dealing 4, and passing. I've got a Mind Stone in my main phase, and I go to combat. I retaliate at Morgan by swinging the Mindskinner at him, once more preventing the 14 damage, which has everyone milling 14, and I then pass turn. Benoit draws, and in his main phase upticks Urza's Saga. He then plays a Stern Lesson, and makes a Power Stone. He then casts an Expedition map, and ships it to Amara. Amara's turn has her playing Kessig Wolfrun as her land for turn, and then casting a Thrashing Brontodon. This allows her to discover into a Savage Stomp, and she has the Colossal Dactyl fight the Brudiclad. Once that's done, she activates the Mosswarp Bridge to cast a Wrathful Raptors. Going to combat, she swings Pantlaza at Morgan for 4, who takes the hit, and she passes. Morgan draws and has enough mana to recast Brudiclad again, and as he enters, with the Treasurer ability on the stack, he casts Mystic Reflection, targeting the Rose Room Treasurer. I respond by casting Sublime Epiphany to counter it, bounce the Brudiclad back to his hand, copy my Silver Mirror, and draw a card. Unfortunately I don't get to hit all of the modes though, but Morgan, having been sufficiently dealt with for his turn, just passes after that. I've got a Polywog Prodigy in my main phase, and follow up with Cloak and Dagger. I then move to equip the Cloak and Dagger onto the Prodigy, and swing the Mindskinner at Morgan. Amara responds by sacrificing her Brontodon, and destroys the Blackblade, so each opponent only mills 10 instead. I then pass turn. Benoit floats a Colorless off of Urza's Saga in his main phase, and then sacrifices it, going to find Soul Ring. He then casts Tameshi, and activates his commander to bounce Hollowed Fountain back to hand, to return Urza's Saga, which draws him a card as well. Benoit then plays the Hallowed Fountain and takes 2 so it comes in untapped. He then casts a Walking Atlas. Benoit then continues his turn by casting Illusionist Bracers, and then a Manifold Key, and passes to Amara. Amara's got a Reliquary Tower for her land for turn, and casts a Skullspore Nexus. She then casts Growing Rites of Itlamok, revealing Kahira, and then casting it. Going to combat, she swings the Colossal Dactyl and the Wrathful Raptors at me, and Pantlaza goes at Benoit. Neither of us block, and we take our hits, and Amara then passes turn, transferring Growing Rites into Itlamok, Cradle of the Sun. Morgan draws, and recasts Brudiclad again. And once it's out, casts a Humble Defector. This has Morgan making a total of 2 treasures from the Rose Room Treasurer, and he then goes to combat. He makes a Mirror token, keeping it as a creature, and then passes turn. During his end step, I flash out a Fairy Vandal. I draw and cast a Grand Architect in my main phase, and then cast Patchwork Banner, naming Wizard. Going to combat, I swing out at Morgan, who declares no blocks. The damage is all prevented, which has each opponent milling a total of 15. After combat, I tap the Grand Architect to its own ability to help cast Swiftfoot Boots. Once it's out, I equip the boots onto the Mindskinner and pass to Benoit. Benoit's turn has him upticking Urza's Saga, and then playing a Plains for his land for turn. He then activates Tameshi to bounce the Plains back to hand, to grab Mox Opal from his graveyard, and then activates the Walking Atlas to put the Plains back into play. Benoit then continues by bouncing the Plains again to get a Mox Amber from his graveyard, and then untaps the Walking Atlas with a Manifold Key, and then retaps it to put the Plains back in. Benoit then activates Tameshi again, this time getting Thousand Year Elixir back, and uses that to untap the Atlas as well, and then activates it once more to put that same Plains back in. Benoit then continues his turn by casting a Spellskite, but with no more bounces, just passes to Amara. Amara draws and plays a Felwar Stone, and then casts Colossal Majesty. She continues the Hulking Raptor, which as it enters, discovers into an intrepid paleontologist. Going to combat, she swings the Wrathful Raptor at Morgan, and the Pantlaza, the Colossal Dactyl, and the Goblin Arnarchomancer at me. I block 2 dinosaurs with my Silver Mirrors, and Amara activates Kessig Wolfrun on Pantlaza, and then uses its Skullspore Nexus to double its power to 20. With Trample and not enough block damage, I get taken out, and Amara passes turn. Morgan draws and in his main phase flashes back Visions of Ruin to make each opponent sacrifice an artifact. He then activates the Humble Defector, drawing 2 and donating it to Amara. He then Skull Clamps a Mirror token, drawing 2 and going to combat. He makes a Mirror token and keeps it as such. He then passes, with Benoit making a Construct token from his Urza's Saga during the end step. Benoit draws and floats a mana off of Urza's Saga before putting the final counter onto it, and then sacrifices it and goes to grab a Glaring Spotlight. He then uses Tameshi to get back the Treasure Vault, and activates the Walking Atlas to put another Plains into play. He then continues his turn by casting a Phyrexian Metamorph, but Morgan responds with a Spell Swindle to counter it and make 4 treasure tokens. Benoit then continues his turn, activating Tameshi again, this time grabbing the Phyrexian Metamorph from the graveyard, which as it comes in, becomes a copy of Brudiclad. He then untaps his Soul Ring with the Manifold Key. He then untaps the Walking Atlas with the 1000 Year Elixir and then activates it again, putting the Plains back into play. He then activates to sacrifice the Treasure Vault to make a treasure token, and then activates Tameshi to once more get back Urza's Saga. Moving to combat, Benoit makes a Mirror token from his Brudiclad, and then turns all of his tokens into constructs, but decides not to attack. After combat, Benoit then plays a Brainstone and passes. Amara draws from her Colossal Majesty as she has the biggest creature, and draws for turn. She then returns the Humble Defectors to Morgan after drawing 2 cards, and casts one of them, which is a Garruk's Uprising. Amara then continues by playing a Sungrass Prairie, and then casting Elemental Bond. She goes to combat and swings her Wrathful Raptors, Colossal Dactyl, and Pantlaza at Benoit, who blocks each of them with a Construct. Amara then casts a Long Way Home on the Construct, blocking Pantlaza, and Amara makes a deal not to attack Morgan if he'll take out the Spellskite. Morgan takes the offer and casts a Braid to blow up the Spellskite. Amara then uses the Kessig Wolfrun on Pantlaza and the Spellspore Nexus to turn it into 26 power. This is enough to take out Benoit, and the Wrathful Raptors send 32 points of damage at Morgan's face. After that, Amara passes turn. Morgan draws and places Sulphur Falls, and then gives Amara the Humble Defector again after activating it to draw 2. He then plays a Hellrider and casts Dance of the Many and has it come as a copy of the Hellrider as well. He then goes to combat, and Morgan makes a Mirror token, and then has all of his tokens become a copy of the Hellrider token. He then swings 10 Hellriders at Amara, and with them all attacking, this is 100 points of damage from Hellriders on attack triggers alone going at Amara, and she gets taken out, and Morgan wins the game. Game review time. So as you can see, this is a bit of a fast game at 55 minutes, but it's a great one because everyone's deck got to do exactly what they wanted to do. Benoit did whatever the heck it is that Tameshi does, Mindskinner milled cards, Pantlaza made dinosaurs, and Brudiclad made things into tokens and then swung with them. I think the MVP for this game was probably the Hellrider, as it allowed Morgan to win out of nowhere, which was super spicy. Outside of that, I thought the threat assessment was pretty decent, and having a Wrathful Raptors with Vigilance on all of your dinosaurs makes for pretty good attackers and blockers, and I felt Amara was in a really good space. If Morgan hadn't drawn into the Hellrider, I think she would have had the game in the bag. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.